LinkedIn 2026 Skills on the Rise report. AI-enabled PMs commanding a 30% salary premium. LinkedIn AI-related job listings surged 70% year over year. Yesterday, I talked about systems thinking, seeing how work actually flows and where it breaks. Today, we get to the skill that turns that visibility into results. Automation architecture. And before you tune out thinking this is a developer skill, it's not. I don't consider myself a software engineer. I don't write production code, but I build things. And that distinction is everything. Let me explain what I mean. LinkedIn just published their 2026 Skills on the Rise report. Fastest growing skills globally include AI engineering, prompt engineering, and model tuning. And reports suggest that AI-enabled project managers, people who can actually build with these tools, are commanding around 30% salary premiums over their peers. Not because of certifications, not because they took a weekend course, because they build things that solve real problems. Here's what most agile professionals do when they identify a problem. They write it on a sticky note. They add it to the retro board. They create a Jira ticket that says, improve process X. And then they wait for someone else to build the solution. That's not going to cut it anymore. Automation architecture means you're the person who identifies the problem and builds the fix. You don't need to build it perfectly. You don't even need to build it at scale, but you need to build something that works. Let me walk you through 3 examples from my own work. Real things that I built, not hypothetical. Number 1, sprint risk flagging. I noticed that teams were consistently surprised by blocked work late in the sprint. Tickets would sit for 3, 4, 5 days with no movement, and nobody caught it until stand-up, if they caught it at all. So I built a Jira automation rule. If a ticket hasn't had a status change or a comment in 48 hours during an active sprint, it gets flagged. Notification goes to the team channel, the assignee gets pinged, and a custom field marks it as at risk so it shows up on the dashboard. That took me about 2 hours to build. It's not machine learning, it's not a custom app, and it's just a Jira automation rule with some smart JQL. But it changed how that team operated. Problems got surfaced 2 days earlier on average, sprint completion rates went up, and I didn't need to ask a developer to build it for me. Number 2, delivery metrics compilation. Leadership wanted weekly delivery reports. Every week, someone, usually the Scrum Master, was spending 2 to 3 hours pulling data from Jira, formatting it in PowerPoint, and sending it up the chain. That's 10 hours a month of manual work that adds 0 value to the team. I built a dashboard that pulls directly from Jira's API, cycle time, throughput, sprint completion rate, blocker trends, all live. No more manual reports, and the data is always current. With Rovo agents now available, you can take this even further. Have an AI agent compile a weekly summary in a natural language and post it to a Confluence page automatically, among many other possibilities. And number 3, definition of ready enforcement. This one's simple, but extremely powerful. Teams kept pulling stories into sprints that weren't ready. Missing acceptance criteria, no designs attached, dependencies not identified. So I built an automation that checks every story when it moves to ready for sprint. If it doesn't meet the criteria, maybe there are required fields that need to be populated even though they're not made as system required fields. Links in place and story points estimated. It gets bounced back automatically with a comment explaining what's missing. That's not rocket science, but it eliminated an entire category of sprint disruption. And it did it without requiring the Scrum Master to be the police. Here's what all 3 of these have in common. None of them required me to write code in the traditional sense. Required me to understand the problem deeply enough to design a solution, know which tools could implement it, and actually build it. That's automation architecture. It's not about being a developer. It's about being someone who solves problems by building systems instead of writing process documents and manual workarounds. The gap between people who manage processes and people who automate them is getting wider every single month. AI is accelerating that gap day by day because now the tools are more powerful than ever. For automation, Rovo agents, Claude, Slack workflows, Zapier, Make.com. The building blocks are everywhere. The skill is knowing which ones to connect and how. Here's my challenge to you. Think about one manual process that annoys your team. Something repetitive, something that eats time every sprint. Status updates, report generation, ticket hygiene, meeting scheduling. Now, build the automation. Not a proposal, not a recommendation, not anything like that. The actual thing. Use whatever tools you have access to. doesn't have to be perfect, and it has to work. And I know what you might be thinking too. Maybe someone's already built this. Well, you know what? Go back and build it again. Learn how they built it and see where maybe there's some ways that you could optimize what they built. This is exactly how open source coding works. When you learn how something is built, you can learn how to improve it. Then show the result. Show your team, show your leadership. That's how you build a portfolio of proof that no certification can match. Tomorrow, we get to the third skill. And honestly, it's the one that ties everything together. AI as a thinking partner, not a tool, not a secretary, a thinking partner. That's a fundamentally different relationship than how most people use AI today. Subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to start building these skills right now, grab the free Agile AI prompt playbook at agiletactics.ai/blueprint. 5 prompts you can use with your actual project data, not generic examples. I'm Danny Liu, and this is Career Optional. See you next time.